Senate Veterans and Military Affairs Finance Committee. It is Thursday, March 31st. It is 8:33 a.m. And if you would, all join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for that, members. This morning, we do have a couple of bills on the agenda. Senate File 4261 from Senator Duckworth, and Senator Newton has Senate File 4103. So Senator Duckworth, are you online? I think I saw your face just a minute ago. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. I am.
So if you would proceed with Senate File 4261.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Mr. Chair and members, for the opportunity to present Senate File 4261. I do have the A1 amendment, Mr. Chair, that I'd like to move at this time.
Members, Senator Duckworth has the A1 amendment. It looks as though you have those in your packet, I would think. There has been, I don't know, Senator Duckworth, can you speak to the amendment and the change of dollars and verbiage?
I'd be happy to, Mr. Chair. The main change in the amendment is changing the dollar amount from a $10 million appropriation to a $25 million appropriation. And we'll get into more of that during the testimony. But obviously, if we're going to bring forward a bill like this, have it passed, we want to make sure that we have done our due diligence and have the funds necessary to build the complete structure that we need, Mr. Chair.
Members, any questions on the amendment? Okay. All those in favor of the A1 amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed say no. Amendment is adopted. Senator Duckworth, to-year bill as amended.
Very good, thank you. So the 148th Fighter Wing has been an important and strategic partner in northeastern Minnesota. In recent years, the 148th and the Minnesota National Guard have been called upon regularly to protect, defend, and ensure peace in our state, nation, and around the world. This bill presents an opportunity to help the 148th invest in its future as well as that of Minnesota. The Guard employs 1,100 local men and women who offer their service whenever they're called upon. The project outlined in the bill will help position the 148th for future missions as well as invest in the community and our state. This bill is timely as the members of the 148th are about to be deployed overseas on a mission. With me today is Ms. Jennifer Caddy, former 148th National Guard member, chair of the Military Affairs Committee, and for the Duluth Area Chamber of Commerce, as well as Mr. Don Kerr, the Executive Director of the Department of Military Affairs, both who can further speak to this bill. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Well, thank you, Senator Duckworth. And to the testifiers, I don't know who would like to go first. If you could identify yourself for the record and proceed with your testimony. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Chair Lang and members of the committee. My name is Jennifer Caddy. I am the chair of the Duluth Area Chamber of Commerce's Military Affairs Committee and a retired member of the 148th Fighter Wing. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here today and speak in support of these proposed investments on behalf of the Duluth Chamber, and would like to thank Senator Duckworth for carrying this important piece of legislation. The Duluth Area Chamber of Commerce is one of the state's largest chambers, serving over 1,000 members in northeastern Minnesota. The chamber's footprint allows us to be an influential regional chamber, advocating for investments and policies that will benefit the economies, businesses, and communities of our region. The Duluth Chamber's unique Military Affairs Committee promotes and supports the economic impacts of all local branches of the military, including the 148th Fighter Wing's Duluth Air National Guard Base. The MAC is comprised of local business leaders and is chartered to work to support military initiatives through legislative and governmental challenges, as well as garnering community support. While the MAC provides support through advocacy, information, and education, it's important to note that we take no position on U.S. foreign or defense policy. Duluth has been home to the 148th Fighter Wing's Bulldogs since the unit was reactivated following the end of World War II, and we are so proud to host the Bulldogs and proud of their mission to protect America's global interests and defend our homeland. Today, the 148th Fighter Wing flies the newest and most capable F-16s in the entire U.S. Air Force fleet, and is trained to provide suppression and destruction of enemy air defense. The 148th is also a NORAD Aerospace Control Alert trained flying wing capable of defending the air sovereignty of North America when asked. Additionally, the 148th executes a state mission within the Minnesota National Guard to support Minnesota's domestic operation response efforts. The 148th has a number of unique capabilities that benefit our local region, including a 24-hour airfield emergency response capability that provides mutual aid assistance to our local departments, an explosive ordnance disposal unit that can render hazards safe in our community, and the 148th operates one of 2 joint communication platforms in the state that serves as an incident command hub in our region. The MAC recognizes the significant contributions of the 148th to our region's economic health and welfare as demonstrated by the examples I just mentioned. In fact, the annual economic impact of the 148th Fighter Wing is $96 million, and they are Duluth's 8th largest employer. As noted, the wing employs over 1,100 total personnel, and many of the Fighter Wing's airmen are also employed by our chamber members in their civilian careers, and they and their family members contribute immensely to our region's communities and economy. Investment into the 148th Fighter Wing's Duluth Air National Guard base would demonstrate the state's commitment to supporting the men and women of the 148th and ensuring the wing's continued economic value to northeastern Minnesota. We recognize that the state of Minnesota has never asked more of our citizen airmen and our citizen soldiers than it has in the last few years. We have seen military members from our communities deployed not only overseas on combat deployments, but mobilized away from their employers and families here within the state to respond to civil unrest, provide security for criminal trials, provide security for the presidential inauguration, administer COVID-19 testing sites, and even augment our long-term care facilities during the pandemic. We recognize this is certainly not what many join the military to do, and we are so grateful for their service to our communities and our state. The airmen of the 148th execute both their federal and state missions from Duluth. We are proud to host them and so proud to support continued investment in safe and modern infrastructure that positions them well for future missions and ensures a long-term presence in our region. So in conclusion, on behalf of the Duluth Area Chamber of Commerce and our 1,000 members, I am here today to support passage of Senate File 4261, which requests funding for the removal of decades-old single-bay aircraft shelters and the construction of new universal aircraft shelters for use at the Duluth Air National Guard base. Again, the MAC is committed to advocating for the 148th Fighter Wing in order to retain the base as a local employer and economic driver of our community, as well as do our part to support the 148th and ensure it's poised to continue to execute its federal and state missions from Duluth for decades to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Katie. Mr. Kerr, would you like to go last?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to go last if that
Okay.
works for you. Thank you.
So, members testifier, we have Mr. Tom Warner with us at the Duluth Airport Authority. Mr. Warner, good morning. Welcome to the Military Committee.
Good morning,
If you could
Mr. Chair.
identify yourself and give us your take.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Tom Warner. I am the Executive Director of the Duluth Airport Authority, and we have 2 airports, including Duluth International Airport in Duluth. We're the proud home of the 148th. We've had a long-standing partnership that really, shows itself every day in how we work together to make sure that the airfield's infrastructure is well managed. We certainly support the 148th in its mission every day by making sure that they have premium infrastructure throughout the airfield and are able to have access to that infrastructure to complete their missions 24/7, 365. It's a responsibility that we take very, very seriously. We have what's called a joint use facility, which means that we coexist side by side with a military element on a civilian airport, and that situation exists in many locations around the country. It does come with its complications, but I can't tell you enough about the leadership of the 148th, the men and women of the 148th, and how they have really worked with us to make sure that civil aviation and military operations can coexist very, very well throughout the years. And so we are definitely a huge supporter. Some of the ways that we work together, they do provide airfield firefighting support, not only for their operations, but for all civilian aircraft operations as well. That's an extremely valuable asset to all of air commerce that they provide. Firefighting is obviously very, very expensive, and so have that partnership also exist in a way that that also helps civil aviation on an ongoing basis on our airfield is critical to what we do. As Ms. Caddy indicated, they do have mutual aid agreements with all 5 municipality interests around the airfield, and so they do respond to a lot of structure fires, medical, and other mutual aid type of situations in and around the Duluth area. And so the 148th, has shown themselves to be an extremely valuable asset and a good neighbor to our community as well. Over the years, we worked together on a number of initiatives to improve our airfield infrastructure, specific not only to their military mission, but also to support civilian aviation. And that situation also exists today as we're looking to completely reconstruct our $77 million parallel taxiway at Duluth. The 148th, the Guard Bureau, and the Department of Defense is also contributing to that effort, along with the Federal Aviation Administration in the state of Minnesota, in order to make sure that that piece of infrastructure serves not only air commerce, but the military for many years to come. And so we do have a tremendous information, or a tremendous relationship with the 148th, as I've talked about here, and we certainly support the passage of this bill as amended. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warner. Mr. Kerr. Good
Thank you,
morning.
Mr. Chair and members. For the record, my name is Don Kerr. I'm the Executive Director of the Minnesota Department of Military Affairs. I'll start by saying this is not an agency bill, but it was going to be next year. And as we looked at a number of factors, we decided that this is the right time to pull this forward and get this into consideration over here, because we do think it's a very important investment in the future. And though we really appreciate the history of the 148th and all of our units, and certainly they have a very strong history, our deeper concern is for the future. And it's really clear that the Air Force is going to be flying fewer airplanes in the future, and fewer flying aircraft means fewer wings, and we're very concerned about making sure that we do whatever we can to ensure that we are able to retain our 2 National Guard flying wings and, if possible, our Air Reserve flying wing here in Minnesota. And this is kind of a direct result of that. So a few years ago, the very active Military Affairs Committee actually made a trip out to Washington, D.C., and they had an audience with a very senior civilian leader in the United States Air Force. And they asked very directly, what can we do to help ensure that we are considered for F-35s in the future? And the very direct answer that they got back was, well, it would really be helpful if the state and the local community would show financial commitment to this by investing in infrastructure that would be useful in the future. And that's really the reason that we're here, Mr. Chair. We really feel that it's important to make that statement, and from a timing perspective, this is a good time to do it. And I will talk very briefly about the reason the numbers moved around in the amendment. The original estimate that we got from the wing was that it was probably going to cost about $10 million to build 2 hangars. And then all of a sudden, we started seeing these incredible increases in construction costs that we're experiencing in our other projects. In fact, had to do a supplemental bonding request just to finish the projects that we got approved last year. And so we asked the CE Squadron to go back and put a pencil to it. And they came back with a $15 million figure. And right after that, the NDAA was released with an earmark to build a 3-bay hangar in Madison, Wisconsin from the federal side for $31 million. And so we called the CE Squadron back at the wing and said, are you sure? Because we don't want to underball, we don't want to lowball this. We want to make sure we have enough money. And they did another assessment, and that assessment did come in at 24.2, but just to account for a little bit of extra room, we think 25 is the right number at this time. And the language changes in the amendment we requested. In the event that we find out that we're underbidding this, we still want to have the capability of building perhaps a 2-bay hangar instead of being tied to completing a 3-bay hangar. And if we come in low, perhaps a 4-bay hangar. But there's also a possibility, if we have to come in low, that there might be room for a congressional ad. They're not called earmarks anymore, but they are back. And that is a possibility for a supplement and a way to show state and federal partnership. But there's another really strong reason for why we want a 100% state facility. So the Air Force has criteria like the Army does for everything that they do and all of their requirements. And they're authorized a certain amount of square footage for hangar space. And that square footage assessment is based on Air Force bases in the Banana Belt, where it's okay to leave $30 million fighters outside in the weather. That's really not a good strategy in Duluth, because we're not in the Banana Belt the last time we checked. And we really think it's important to have as much capability as possible. And right now, they're up against the top end of the allowable square footage of hangar space. Well, these hangars are actually gonna be on state property. They're 100% state funded. We're gonna make the argument that the Air Force can't count that against their square footage cap, and that should allow us the capability to request federal airspace or federal square footage up to their cap. So we feel this is a strong workaround for a number of reasons, and really hope you can support this bill. We think it's very important. As you probably know, we're also concerned about the future of the 133rd Airlift Wing here in Minneapolis-St. Paul. That's actually a more immediate concern for us because we're doing the math and looking at the numbers, and the Air Force wants to divest of C-130Hs. And the 148th flies the newest F-16s in the United States Air Force inventory. And the 133rd flies the newest C-130H3s in the United States Air Force inventory. That's both a blessing and a curse because those are the last ones they think they need to replace. And we're concerned that there won't be enough flying wings left over, and both of our wings are currently, there is no plan for new aircraft for our wings. So that's something we're taking on very vigorously. We're also concerned about exactly how the Air Force will use criteria to make determinations. If you're following that in the media, there are a lot of allegations as they're basing C-130Js and F-35s of shenanigans, for lack of a better term. And so Governor Wall sits on the Council of Governors, and one of the Council of Governors is working directly with the Department of Defense to make sure that the governors are consulted when defense decisions are made. And right now, one of the questions that the Council of Governors is asking the Air Force is clarity on what their strategic basing process is. And so we hope to gain some information on that and also to send a message that we're watching what they're doing. And we'll watch that process as we go on the road. But we want to do everything we can to ensure that we're flying fighters, F-35s or otherwise, in Duluth for a very long time in the future. And with that, Mr. Chair, I'll stand for any questions.
Well, thank you, Mr. Carter. Members, questions? Senator Howe, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for speaking to the almost doubling of the request, because that was a red flag for me. But how much federal assistance, and I've got a few questions, but how much federal match is in this, or is there any federal money involved in the hangars?
Mr. Carter.
Mr. Chair, Senator Howe, our strategy here is to use 100% state funding on this for the reasons I stated in the testimony. We think that is, we don't like to do that often. We usually like to get as much federal match as we can, but we felt because of the direct guidance we got from the Department of the Air Force about having that state contribution, the best way to do that was to do a 100% state-funded project.
Senator Howe.
Thank you. So, you talked about the availability of building something other than a 3-bay universal parking shelter. I don't know if the language gives you the flexibility to do what you want. It specifically says a new 3-bay universal aircraft parking facility. I would almost say that if you want to do that, we should probably strike that new 3-bay and leave it wide open. Because right now, it's looks like to me it's pretty specific, unless I missed it in the amendment.
You missed it in the amendment, Senator.
No, oh. Okay, got it. So, I appreciate the fact that we're doing something to keep the 148th there. If that's what we need to do to invest in keeping, that visibility to keep that air wing there, I think that's an important investment that should probably be made. So, thank you.
Senator Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm looking at the number of personnel that we have in the fighter wing. 148th says 1,049 airmen. How many of them are female?
Mr. Kerr? You know that one?
Mr. Chair, Senator Anderson, I can get back to you on that. I know that we're running approximately 20%, but let me get back to the committee with the exact number. We have that information, I just don't have it on me.
And Mr. Chair,
Mr.
Mr. Kerr, besides the number of female, how many are fighter pilots with the 148th? So maybe that's another
I don't know.
statistic.
Less
If any of the testifiers might have any insight on that.
Go ahead.
Chair, Senator, I'm a recently retired member of the 148th Fighter Wing. I believe there's less than 30 pilots, fighter pilots. The rest are operations, maintenance, support personnel.
Ground crew. Okay. Mr. Chair, Mr. Kerr, it shows in the history that this fighter wing has devolved from the 179th Fighter Squadron during World War II to the well, I guess it went back to the 393rd in 1945. I'm wondering now with you mentioned in your testimony and also in this handout about the F-35, would that change status as far as if we were blessed to have the F-35 come to Duluth, would that change the status, the number of the 148th?
Any of the testifiers?
Mr. Chair, Senator Anderson, so there will be some minor modifications because the requirement, depending on which manned aircraft is selected in it, I want to be clear that our original push was to be sure that we were considered for F-35. But we've kind of expanded that a little bit, and we're really interested in flying future manned fighters, whatever that is. And that might be F-35. We just want to make sure there's a mission after the F-16. But it could also be the F-15EX. The Air Force is buying brand-new off-the-line F-15s. It's called the F-15EX. It has an expanded capability, and that's going to be flying for a long time into the future. And that might turn out to actually be a better fit for Duluth. We don't really know, and we don't really care. We think we need to maintain a manned fighter capability up there. We also know the Air Force is working on the manned fighter after the F-35, and there's a possibility that because we do fly the newest F-16s, that we may be able to bridge to fielding of the new aircraft, even though that might be 20 years down the road. But there will be minor adjustments to the manpower, depending on which airframe we get, but they will be in the rough order of magnitude of about 1,000 people up there, no matter which aircraft we get.
So, Mr. Chair.
Senator Anderson.
Mr. Kerr, is it possible, because you hear about in Afghanistan and overseas that we use drones, is it possible that there would be a attempt to bring a drone into our squadron of drones into Duluth?
Mr. Kerr, any of the testifiers, I think I know the answer to this. Well, Mr. Chair, let me try first, and then you feel free to correct me. We've actually inquired about what the future of unmanned aircraft in the Air Force is, and they're actually divesting of a lot of their unmanned aircraft, at least the attack aircraft, interestingly, to a three-lettered agency. And the state of North Dakota, struggling with years, this was back in the late 90s, actually made a conscious decision. They felt that they weren't going to compete well in the fight for F-35, and the Adjutant General, I believe, made a decision to bet on the future and divested of F-16s in lieu of Predator drones. And so they're flying Predators out of Fargo right now. Well, they fly them in Fargo, but they don't fly in Fargo. It's kind of an interesting thing. But the Air Force is not super enamored with that concept, and we don't feel that it's a viable option or a desirable option for Duluth. And our argument is that we want to see manned fighters in Duluth, as long as the Air Force is flying manned fighters.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
How'd I do, Mr. Chair?
That was kind of where I was going, yeah. Anyone else have questions for testifier? Senator Uyghur?
Well, Mr. Chair, did you have anything to amplify on that answer?
I don't like drones, that's all I have to say about that.
Mr. Chair, I did have a
like manned
question.
aircraft, yes.
First, Senator Duckworth, thanks for offering this, and I can only presume that the Duluth senators also support this. They're not on the bill, but I can presume that.
I could speak to that in the rapid-moving fashion of the Senate, I guess this was a fairly recent development. And I guess I can talk about that now, but I do have a couple questions at the end. But as far as this bill is concerned, this is what I would consider a competitive effort against other states and other agencies that would be vying for a fighter of, you know, in my understanding as of right now, and this is through conversations with some federal partners, and I know I've mentioned that to Senator Newton a little bit, but this is an effort to ensure those manned fighters come to Minnesota, or at least a step towards that.
Well, Mr. Chair, I fully support that and the bill. I wanted to thank all the testifiers, but also Major Katie, is it? And,
Yes.
you know, 20 years intelligence officer. I did read a little bit more. And thank you for your service in Iraq, Afghanistan as intelligence officer. What inspired your service to our country?
Ms. Katie?
Thank you, Chair, Senator. I joined the military shortly after high school in 2001, in June, actually, right before September. And I was lured by the Army's old motto, kind of join the Army, see the world, and delivered on that promise, certainly. So the world changed in September, but I wouldn't have traded that 20-year career for anything. So I'm very grateful for my time in the military. Thank you for the question.
Yes, Ms. Chair, Ms. Major Katie, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Members, any additional questions? I got a couple. The newest F-16s, the newest C-130s, how new are they?
How good are they?
How new are they?
Oh. Chair, I believe we went through conversion at the 148th Fighter Wing several years ago. My memory is fading, 5 years ago, maybe? More?
Mr. Chair, I can get back to you with the years of manufacture, but I do know that in both cases that, so the F-16 production line is still up and running, but the U.S. Air Force hasn't bought any F-16s since these aircraft. And I'll get back to you with the actual year. Same situation for the C-130H3s. The 133rd flies the last 8 production line examples of the C-130H.
So, and this is probably informational knowledge for the committee, but my estimation on those F-16s is that, and everybody has to realize that aircraft are not like vehicles. When they wear out, they put them away. When they wear out, you bring them back to the manufacturer, tear them down, and you rebuild them. But I'm guessing that most of those model years probably range from the mid-'80s to the mid-'90s. Especially the C-130s, they might be older than that.
Mr. Chair, my recollection is mid-'90s on the C-130s, and I think that it might be around 2000 for the F-16s, but we'll get that number. That's something we can get. We'll get that back to the committee. But you're correct in that these are not new airplanes by any means, but they have been recently refurbed. They go through a continuous process, just like the rotary wing do in the Army.
Right, right. Well, I just know that most of the aircraft I fly are from late 70s, mid-'80s. The paint's newer than that.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, thank you. And I'm just have a question of you, of whether you're suggesting that maybe the C-130s that we have now are going to be phased out and replaced with something else. I haven't heard of anything, but.
I guess I have not, specifically speaking, other than knowing, just by sticking your finger into the wind, I suppose, and knowing that over the course of time that that aircraft has aged, and there's a limited number of, there's a limited effort into replacing it as far as the new C-130 line. They've gone, away from propped aircraft one. C-17s, are the, not direct replacement, but pretty close.
We thought that about the C-47s also.
The 141s, yeah, the 141s were the same way. So. Senator Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Katie, I have a daughter that's going on 27 years active duty Air Force intelligence. She's debating whether she should go for 30. I'm just getting your expert advice as to what I should tell her.
Well, thank you for the question, Chair Senator. I was in a little bit different position because I've been at National Guard for the last, half to 2/3 of my career. And so I was balancing a civilian career. I work as the Director of Regulatory Affairs at Minnesota Power in Duluth. So I kind of got to a natural transition point in my career, but, 30 is a good even number to hang in for another 3 years. So that's what I'd say to that.
Well, members, I think at this point, Senator Duckworth, if you'd like to restate the motion to that Senate File 4261, as amended, be recommended to pass and sent to finance.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Okay, members, Senator Duckworth moves that Senate File 4261 be recommended to pass as amended and re-referred to the Finance Committee. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. The bill is passed to Finance. Thank you. Thank you to the testifiers.
Thank you.
And members. Next on the agenda, we have Senator Newton with Senate File 4103. Senator Newton, good morning.
Good morning.
Good
Mr.
good
Chair
morning,
and
Ms. Senator
members.
Newton. Welcome to your committee.
Thank you. I have Senate File 4103 that I would like to move. And with the bill, I have the A1 amendment, Mr. Chair. And the A1 just puts the bill in the order that I would like to have it have.
Members, in your packet, you should have the A1 amendment Senator, if you'd like to just explain the A1, and then we can vote on that and get your bill the way you like it.
Yeah, the A1 amendment actually takes care of the 70% disabled people at the same rate as 100%. It's a 25% increase. And this bill increases the market value exclusion for 100% permanently disabled veterans. Currently, they could reduce the value of their home for property tax purposes by up to $300,000, and we're increasing that to $400,000. It's a 25% increase, and it just takes into consideration the reality of property values going up with people not having to do anything at all to their property, and to make sure that we are 100% and 70% disabled veterans are not put at a disadvantage when it comes to paying property taxes. And I have with me, I think, Mr. Trent Dilks. He may be online.
And Senator Newton, prior to going into the bill any further, we should probably vote on the amendment. Members, Senator Newton moves that Senate File 4103 be amended as just discussed. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Amendment 4103 as amended, Senator. And you'd like to go to the testifier?
Yes, if Mr. Dilks is available, I see him there, yes.
Good. Mr. Dilks, good morning. If you could identify yourself and tell us about the bill.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. I'm Trent Dilks. I'm the Legislative Director for the DAV of Minnesota. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I apologize that I can't be there in person. I usually like to see this committee and all your smiling faces, but I was unable to travel this morning. Is a topic that I've been fortunate enough to talk about quite a bit over the last 8 years. And I know I've worked with this committee on the value of this exclusion for our disabled veterans. Real quick, I'd like to touch on the percentages, because I think sometimes we throw around things like 70%, 80%, but maybe we lose sight a little bit of what we're talking about as far as a disability. So I was looking it up this morning, and TBI, which is the prevalent disability for post 9/11 veterans like myself because of IEDs and things of that nature, I was looking at the rating schedule. And to be rated 70%, which would qualify under this bill for $200,000, but currently $150,000, under TBI, that would be 70% is an inability to communicate by spoken or written means at least half of the time. Inability to communicate by written or spoken means at least half of the time is a 70% rating. To achieve 100% total and permanent under that same rating schedule, complete inability to communicate written or verbal is 100%. So it puts a little perspective on the numbers. Dropping down to a 40%, inability to communicate verbally or written occasionally, but less than half the time is only 40%. If you combine that with a 30%, you can combine disability ratings and you'll see a lot of that to get into the higher levels. If you combine that with 30% post-traumatic stress, which is chronic sleep impairment, depression, and panic attacks at least once a week, that is a 30% rating. And if you add the 40 and the 30, most of us would say 40 and 30 equals 70. According to the VA, that equals 60. So actually those veterans with an inability to communicate less than half the time and panic attacks once a week, chronic sleep disorders would be 60% and excluded. We'd have to be able to stack some additional ones. So when we get into the 70% and above ratings, we are talking about some pretty significantly impacted veterans that we're doing this kind of thing for. You'll see a lot of our Vietnam veterans who stack various kinds of cancer due to their exposure to Agent Orange, along with diabetes, which was a prevalent result of Agent Orange use, and to start to get into those 70 to 100% ranges. But again, it's multiple illnesses impacting their lives in multiple ways to get into that. So I just wanted to put in a little bit of perspective for the committee this morning, what a 70 to 100% rating can look like for our disabled veterans. The DAV of Minnesota is fully in support of this bill to adjust the rate. I know I've been working on it for 8 years and it hasn't seen any adjustment. I was just, for fun, reading the 2022 Property Tax Value and Assessment Practices Report this morning. And it tells us that since 2016, on average, the estimated market value, which is used here by assessors, has gone up between 2016 and 2020 by 4.5% on average statewide. Not a big difference between greater Minnesota and the metro there. And I know personally from seeing my most recent one, I'm seeing close to a 10% because of what's happening here in my estimated market value. So this hasn't been adjusted, I believe, since the inception of this. Estimated market value goes up each year in the state of Minnesota. So we'd like to see this adjustment done so that it keeps what we wanted to accomplish for these more severely disabled veterans in line with what's actually happening in the market. And now seems like a good time to make that adjustment. With that, that's all I have for you there, Mr. Chair.
Well, thank you, Mr. Dilks. Members, any questions? Senator Anderson, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Dilks, how many members qualify from your vantage point as to in a 70% or 100% that haven't received any type of acknowledgement of getting a home and getting their the market value reduced by the amounts that you were talking about here in this bill?
Mr. Dilks.
Mr. Chair, Senator Anderson, could you clarify that question for me just a little bit? I'm not quite sure which number you're looking for.
What I'm looking at is how many people that were served during the different wars have been classified as 70% or 100% that haven't received this type of exclusion and are waiting to be considered for these exclusions, or maybe there's all been considered. I'm not sure.
Mr. Chair, Senator Anderson, actually that was in the most recent property value and assessment practices report. They did cover that the number of veterans applying for this increased less than they had anticipated. They had anticipated a 10% increase over that 5-year timeline that they looked at, and it was more like 5%. So we believe previous attempts to get the information about this benefit out there, and that's what they put in their report, the Department of Revenue as well. We're successful in an earlier increase, and that we're seeing less veterans applying for it at this point. I know when I spoke with MDVA, we are talking about a group of less than 10,000 veterans total in the state of Minnesota that are 70% or greater for a disability rating. So then we'd have to figure out the percentage of home ownership, but it's not a large population of veterans that are the most severely impacted as far as the rate of disability. I hope that addressed your question. I hit a couple different points there.
Senator
Thank you.
Howe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I just want to make a comment that I just got an email yesterday from a constituent. Property value went up $80,000, and they haven't seen what that's going to do to their property taxes. I know I myself seen a $140,000 property value increase, and I haven't seen what that's going to do to taxes. So property values are taking an astronomical leap up, and we are facing taxing people right out of their homes just because of the property value increases. So this is a timely issue.
Thank you, Senator Howe, and I think I would echo that a little bit. I've seen my own property tax statements. I've had a report actually from the Minnesota counties that came out and showed most property values somewhere between that 15 and 20% increase. And that's alarming to me. That's alarming to what I pay. I've seen the value increase pretty rapidly. So I'm curious, you know, that when you said 4.5% increase, I think we're underestimating that a little bit. I don't know, members, any other questions? Senator Uyghur?
Mr. Chair, and I assume when it goes to taxes, they'll get the fiscal note. I strongly support, as you know, Senator Newton, I carried legislation like this in the past. I believe it was first passed in 2008. And one of my testifiers was Christine Stone, her spouse who left us 5 or 6 years ago, served in the Battle of the Bulge. Christine, a widow, was testifying in committee. It moved a lot of the members back then. And that kept her in the house, in their home. And there's a lot of those stories throughout Minnesota. So this is going to keep people in their home. And Christine did pass 2 years ago, but she's reunited with Victor. And again, this is important, and hopefully we'll get this included in the tax bill.
Thank you, Senator Uyghur. And I think we do have, Senator Nelson has been pretty open to discussion about this to both Senator Newton and myself.
Yeah, and if I could just comment on Senator Anderson's concern, is one of my concerns is we're not doing enough in terms of outreach to make sure that all of the veterans who would qualify for this are contacted and notified that they qualify. We always have people slipping through the cracks when it comes to this exclusion. And I've been working on this since 2008, I think, with Bob Detmer in the House, and trying to keep up with the increases in property values that just keep moving up.
Members, any additional questions? I think I would, Senator Newton, and we talked about this a little bit, and when Senator Uyghur mentions the fiscal note, and I guess I'd fair to guess that fiscal note's going to be fairly small,
Yeah.
if anything.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I don't think there really is a fiscal note. This applies to county property tax. And even surprisingly, since we started this in 2008, the counties have been very supportive, and we've had no opposition that I've heard of anyhow.
Well, members, with that, Senator Newton, would you like to restate your motion to?
Yes, I'd like to move Senate File 4103 as amended, Mr. Chair.
Members, Senator Newton moves that 4103 as amended be recommended to pass and re-refer to the tax committee. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Senator Newton, you're on your way to taxes.
Thank you.
Members, this is the the end of the agenda for today. We do not have any additional committee hearings scheduled as of now. I don't foresee anything scheduled. I'd just like to say that, again, as the year kind of comes to an end, it seems like it went very quickly, and I appreciate all the conversation we've had in the hearing room. I appreciate the opportunity to serve as chair, not knowing what's going to happen next year. I truly thank each and every one of you. I feel pretty strongly about the military and veterans in general, and I try to promote the thoughts and ideas as we go forward. And Senator Anderson?
Mr. Chair, I encourage Senator Newton, as he runs for a different position, that he be our counterpart over in the House. Thank you.
Senator Newton, what do you have to say about that?
I have to get there first.
We all do.
Yes, I would, maybe give Senator Uyghur, Senator Newton an opportunity just to speak if they'd like to.
Oh, well, it's an honor to serve on the committee. I appreciate the civil discourse, the discussion, the way it all bonds together. It's a very respectful group, and I'm happy to learn more about each of you and about the important role that the veterans provide, their families, the needs that are being addressed. It's important work, and honored to be a part of the process.
Thank you.
And I'd like to say also that, as much as we might disagree on some issues when it comes to veterans issues, we all come together. So it's really been a pleasure serving on the committee and having you as chair.
Well, I appreciate that. And again, Senator Duckworth, I know he's not here, and Senator Herr is probably just about getting ready to join us now, but I do appreciate both, like you said, there's really not a whole lot of partisanship that goes on in this room, and that really makes it easy to get on that downhill slope and get some things accomplished. And I think we've done that over the last couple of years. I appreciate all that, and thank each and every one of you. So, oh yes, so thanks, Dave. Next, haven't got a date yet, but I believe it'd be in the next couple of weeks. We will have the vets and the state gov bill up in finance, so we can send out a notification when that's up too. So, with that, members, Senator.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I was just going to ask, you're not going to have an omnibus bill. It's going to be part of the state gov bill.
Yep. So all the bills we passed, the finance portions of that, including some of the tails that we're going to incur, are all going to be part of the state gov bill.
It's one thing, and I think most of us agree, is that we should be a separate committee and not be a part of, I've been with Ag Committee, with Labor Committee, State Gov Committee, and veterans should be a separate committee, and we should have our own omnibus bills.
Couldn't agree more. It says finance in our title, and it should be finance. With that, members, thank you. With nothing further on the agenda, we stand adjourned. Thank you.